Matthew Stuckey here from Verity Baptist Church Manila and Verity Baptist Church Pampanga with a quick missionary update. And this past week we had a total of 50 salvations between our churches, 12 in Pampanga and 38 in Manila. So it's not the best week we've had in the last several weeks, but I was glad we were able to get to 50 salvations. Sunday soul winning was a little bit rough. It was raining really hard. We're still in that rainy season, although we're getting we're on the downward slide of that, but it's still going to be probably raining this month and off and on next month as well. Then after that, it's probably going to be pretty sparse. At least that's what it's been in previous years, or in most years, that's the way it works. So the restrictions here in the Philippines are still really strict. Just wanted to quickly update you on some of the stuff. Right now, if somebody's traveling from out of the country into the country, into the Philippines from another country, there's a mandatory 14-day quarantine, and I don't think there's any exceptions to that. If you're coming from the U.S., you also have to obtain a visa in order to be able to even visit, and then you're subject to a 14-day quarantine upon arrival. But I don't believe those visas are going to be granted unless you are married to a Filipino citizen, or unless you have a relative that's a Filipino citizen, like a close relative. And so I haven't looked at all the details. That's what somebody told me here recently. But it looks like right now it's still very, very strict in terms of letting people into the country. So in case you were hoping to visit the Philippines at the end of this year or next year after the holidays, that's kind of the situation we have now. We're hoping things are going to change quickly. They have loosened up some restrictions. They're starting to loosen the age restriction because since this started 6 months ago, if you're under the age of 21 or older than 60, you're not allowed out in public. And they're talking about changing that to if you're under the age of 18 and above 65. And so I'm not sure what the update is on that. So right now they're still extremely strict here. We're hoping things are going to loosen up. I know we're more on the downward slide in terms of the number of cases and stuff like that, but they're still pretty strict. It's really hard to see how long this is going to go out, but we're still doing the workout here, even though it is pretty difficult at this time. In terms of the preaching that we preached on Wednesday, I preached on Revelation 20. I talked about Gog and Magog. Revelation 20 is packed, so it's the third sermon in 5. Then on Sunday, we continued the series that we have on church problems. We talked about envy. We talked about the exterior causes. And what's interesting is the 4 exterior causes that I mentioned, you can point back to interior causes. The interior causes we had mentioned the week before, and one of those lines up with each of the exterior causes. And so it's something I didn't really notice when I first wrote the sermon, but I kind of changed it this past week as I noticed that, and it kind of shows that the problems on the inside are what the real problem are. It's just the things that happen on the outside kind of make things spring up from time to time. And so then also we went through Romans 8a, talked about being a debtor to the Spirit, and showed how the Bible says hope that is seen is not hope, and it says we're saved by hope in Romans 8. And so hope is something that's a sure thing, but there's no physical, empirical evidence of the proof of that. But we are waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of the body. We're waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. And throughout Romans 8, it's just making it very clear that there's no physical change at salvation. And so when preachers are preaching, well, if you're really saved, there's going to be some works, you're going to have a changed life. Yeah, that's not how we're saved. I mean, we're saved by hope according to the Bible. So we'll have that sermon up. I'm going to be a little bit delayed this week on posting those sermons. Toward the latter half of the week, we'll have them up. But you can check that out if you want. Romans 8a, debtor to the Spirit. Then next week, we'll finish up Romans 8. This Wednesday, actually, I encourage you to tune in to the sermon. It's 5 p.m. Here in the Philippines, which is 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday morning in the U.S. But anyways, tomorrow's actually my birthday. Wednesday is my birthday, and so we're gonna have a guest preacher. We're gonna have Brother Mateus from our church is gonna preach, and he moved here from Eastern Europe. He's training for the ministry, and so he's gonna be preaching here on Wednesday. I'm excited to see it. And so anyways, just continue to be in prayer for our church and everything. We're still doing the work right now, and that's not going to stop. But it's definitely, once the restrictions are loosened, we'll definitely be able to do more for God, and it will be a lot easier. and everyone will be able to come back to church, and we'll be able to have soul winning events and stuff like that. Obviously, we're hoping things will go back to what they were before everything started, but obviously, there's no guarantees at this point. It's hard to tell around the world what any government's choices are going to be, and it is what it is. But anyways, thank you, and God bless.